All of the questions we've been wanting to ask, the answers that we need from Activision. Well, let's say that maybe Activision aren't willing to talk on this matter. We want to know about the cheating problem. We want answers that actually explain why they allow cheaters in the game. I've got an interview video that we're going to be looking at today of a cheat developer being interviewed by a normal guy, a content creator, somebody who enjoys playing Call of Duty. And this actually gives us the answers that we've been longing for. This explains the things that Activision have been silent about this whole time. So, let's crack on with the video.
Video where I interviewed a Call of Duty cheater. That interview put me on a path to find some answers. I reached out to Call of Duty directly, but as you could expect, I was ignored. But little did I know, answers were coming, but not from the source that I was expecting. The owner of one of the largest Call of Duty cheat providers reached out to help provide some clarity to the questions that we all want answers to. So
straight off the rip, in this video, Capslock has stated that he tried to reach out to Activision to no avail. He got no answers whatsoever from Activision. So guess what? The answers started coming in, but from the opposite end of that table, from the people who actually provide the cheats in the game. So you would expect these guys to not really want to speak out about the problem, but they were more than happy to answer the questions from Capslocked.
Tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do.
My username is Zeebler. I'm the sole developer and owner of the cheat provider. Most of my everyday life is spent researching, reverse engineering, developing cheats, and selling them.
Are there cheats available on console? And if so, how popular are they going to become?
Now, there have been a lot of people who are stating that this is all fake. It's been falsed just for entertainment purposes, right? But I know for a fact, right, that Zeebler, I know who he is, I know what he does, I know what cheat provider he's involved in, and he's actually put a tweet out here saying, I did let Capslock interview me, it's not fake. So all of this information shows that it's real. Plus, I've actually had my own personal interaction with Zeebler, had my back and forth conversations via email, and it is something I'm working on, but I want to try and get information that hasn't already been put out yet, which will come after we've reacted to Capslocked video. So yes, it's all real.
Those that need validation will easily be able to find the information. With all of that being said, let's hop right into the interview. So tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do.
My username is Zeebler. I'm the sole developer and owner of the cheat provider. Most of my everyday life is spent researching, reverse engineering, developing cheats, and selling them.
How long have you been creating cheats, and how long have you been creating Call of Duty cheats?
I've been involved in cheat development in general for more than 10 years. I've been developing cheats for Call of Duty for a few years.
So why are cheats able to go undetected for so long?
A lot of people think that Ricochet can simply buy undetected cheats and detect them, but it isn't that easy. I make unique bypasses and focus on security so that it's hard for the anti-cheat team to reverse engineer our unique bypasses and see how they function.
So I just want to point out at this moment, a lot of people expect like the anti-cheat to be able to press a button or click their fingers and detect these cheats. You have to remember, on the opposite side of the table, we do have some high-level developers, some high-level coders who are able to actually create things to bypass, whatever the other team on Ricochet's side of things are actually creating. So it's never just as simple as, we've detected you and then the cheat developers go, oh, they got us, we'll have to leave it and, walk away. No, never. They've already, got a team of people working in the background to counteract whatever Ricochet's team have put in place, and that seems to be the gist of this video throughout.
It is incredibly hard to reverse engineer most cheat software, and even if they get the job done, it wouldn't necessarily be clear to the anti-cheat team how they could implement a reliable detection without false positives.
So what does the Call of Duty anti-cheat actually do?
Ricochet collects data from players such as hardware identifiers and information on running processes. It also monitors components of the Windows operating system that are often abused by cheaters. The anti-cheat does what it can to protect access to the game's memory.
I just want to point out as well the fact they've said of how often and how long it would take for the anti-cheat team to actually, decipher the cheat development coding to actually be able to detect them. It shows me that the people on the cheating side of things, the people developing cheats, feel like there's more in it for them. Obviously that's their business, that's how they make money, so they're going to give it their all. It just feels like when it comes to Ricochet anti-cheat, it's almost like they don't really care. because essentially, you know, a large portion of the Call of Duty player base is in fact cheating. Maybe not like 50% or 60%, but it's a large portion nonetheless. So if Activision actually do finally detect them all and end up with, you know, at least 90% of cheaters being banned, then what percentage of their player base actually diminishes? What percentage of their player base goes away and causes their game and their stock value to decrease? And this is a question I've always had in my mind.
Which includes useful information, such as player locations. Ricochet's driver protects itself and other components of the anti-cheat, and is usually used for targeted detections of cheat providers selling kernel cheat software. Ricochet's server-side component evaluates available information for Call of Duty players and issues them shadow bans if it's deemed necessary. As far as I can tell through large-scale testing and other factors, Call of Duty assigns a trust score to each player based on account age, stats, behavior, heuristics, and other factors.
When they were actually talking about incorporating Ricochet anti-cheat into the game, they did mention about trust factors on accounts. This can actually lead to people, you know, if you report somebody in the game and you're on a low trusted account yourself, then your report might not go through, and vice versa. If you're highly trusted, then you will end up, you know, having people shadow ban probably much easier than you would on a not so trusted account. This trust account and trust levels and things like that, it's leaving, you know, the report system and the detection system in the hands of the player base. I've never liked that idea. Reporting people in the game shouldn't really be a thing. If the game had a fully functioning anti-cheat, something that had a lot of time and effort put into it with a solid team behind it, you know, we as a player base wouldn't need to be concerned about reporting people in the game, because essentially those players would end up detected if a good solid anti-cheat was working, right?
Determines how many reports a player needs to be shadow banned. New accounts have a very low trust score by default, which is why new players who get reported a few times will be shadow banned. Extremely low trust score can result in kill limits and disconnects.
Is Ricochet anti-cheat as good as it should be, or as good as it could be?
Ricochet is an extremely bare anti-cheat. Ricochet does not include several critical generic detections for internal and external cheats. Ricochet does not include any detections at all, or even flags for DMA cheating.
So right here, right, from a cheat developer, he's stating that it is basically a bare minimum anti-cheat. Remember how they hyped this up when Vanguard was about to be released? They were like, it's the biggest anti-cheat that's ever going to exist, you know, it's kernel level, we'll be able to detect all cheaters, right? They made it out to be the biggest thing since sliced bread. And unfortunately, from a cheat developer, somebody who is sitting there doing his job, which is to bypass this anti-cheat on a daily basis, is saying that it's the bare minimum, actually labeling like simple generic parts that are usually incorporated into anti-cheats are not involved in Ricochet, which again leads down the path of what we see from the people like Dre840 stating that anti-cheat was just a sales ploy, and I genuinely believe that as well. It is an anti-cheat, it is kernel level, but it is the bare minimum. It shows, it really does show.
Or other novel methods of cheating, such as computer vision-based cheating. In addition, Ricochet implements targeted detections of popular cheat providers, too rarely for how many popular providers exist for Call of Duty, and Ricochet seems to have poor judgment about which providers to target. Finally, Ricochet does not focus enough on keeping known cheaters off their game. Their hardware bans are easy to get around. They don't hardware ban known cheaters until the cheater has been permanently banned 2 or more times for cheating. Ricochet seems far too focused on their server-side shadow ban system, which is ineffective because it affects legitimate players just as much as it affects closet cheaters, and shadow bans remove after a few days for both closet cheaters and legitimate players.
So right there, you've heard it from the cheat developer himself that he's stating the shadow ban system is bogus. It doesn't work because all it essentially does is limit your playtime for a couple of days and then it's removed, right? Unless it's actually linked to a detection, which he does go on to say, but he actually states that it affects legitimate players just as much as it affects closet cheaters and, you know, essentially like rage hackers as well. So when you've got closet cheaters who are getting shadow banned all the time and they get their account back and they're like, yo, listen, I didn't cheat, I got my account back, yeah, no ban detected, blah blah blah, right? It doesn't mean anything, and this actually exposes that in so many different ways. I'm not saying that everybody who gets shadow banned is a cheater either, because what that's also proven is that legitimate players are affected by the shadow ban system that's been put in place, and this is definitely a downfall, because all it does is create further lack of trust within the player base, within the community, and that is not a good thing, because essentially it has everybody turning on each other and ends up leading down a path of zero trust whatsoever, to a point where even if they actually, you know, enhanced Ricochet anti-cheat to the point where it was at the best it could be, people still aren't going to trust each other. People still aren't going to believe that somebody's legit if they get a shadow ban, and that's unfortunate.
What is the cause of the Ricochet anti-cheat coming up so short against detecting cheating?
Ricochet seems to lack funding, talent, and freedom. In terms of funding, Activision's investors may not be interested in seeing Activision invest heavily in anti-cheat, because anti-cheat doesn't have a clear return on investment.
So what he's just stated right there is something that is, you know, sitting in the back of my mind all the time. How is it going to be beneficial financially for Activision to spend a lot of money on a anti-cheat team or anti-cheat program when there's no real return? If anything, it creates further loss, because no matter whether somebody is playing their game with cheats or legitimately, it's still an extra player playing their game. The more numbers playing their game, the bigger the player base, the bigger the stocks, the higher the value of the stocks, and so on. It's not beneficial for Call of Duty, for Activision, to implement a fully functioning anti-cheat, because they will lose a large portion of the player base in the short time, and maybe over a couple of years it will bring some legitimate players back, but unfortunately it's got to be a quick return. They've got to be able to see it, especially when they have investors involved.
In terms of talent and freedom, Team Ricochet needs more talented individuals with experience, and those individuals need to be free to do what they feel needs to be done to stop cheating. I can imagine that the Ricochet team is likely running into many walls with Activision and Microsoft in terms of being able to implement what they need to implement to decrease cheating.
Is the shadow ban system useful in discouraging cheating?
The shadow ban system is ineffective. Closet cheaters who get reported are shadow banned for a few days, and legitimate players who get reported are shadow banned for a few days. It's a system that temporarily affects closet cheaters and legitimate players both. Every cheater I've seen get a shadow ban.
Again, proving about the shadow ban system being ineffective. Now, I've made videos in the past about streamers getting shadow banned. Now, the reason I've made them videos is simply because I genuinely believe those streamers to be cheating based on gameplay footage that I've been able to see or been sent, or I've found myself from their streams and I've put them into videos. And then when that leads further down the line to them getting a shadow ban, yes, that should be documented in my opinion. The shadow ban system is on its ass. It well and truly is. I think Capslock has done a great video here interviewing this guy who is clearly one of the largest cheat developers for the Call of Duty cheat at the moment, and it gets more interesting as we go on.
Their shadow ban removed after a few days, unless it was during an actual detection. Cheaters will just ask for more time on their subscription to compensate for the shadow ban, and then they'll wait it out. The shadow ban system and SBMM both enforce my theory that Call of Duty is pandering to casual players. Skilled, legitimate players are paired with all of the game's cheaters, thanks to SBMM, and everyone in these lobbies periodically gets shadow banned. Meanwhile, casual players enjoy the game freely. Call of Duty shouldn't neglect their competitive player base, because COD is a competitive FPS game.
Are there cheats available on console? And if so, how popular are they going to become?
This part is very interesting to me because it talks about the cheats on console. I'm fully aware of multiple different cheating methods on console, one of which we've actually made multiple videos about, which is computer vision, which is what allows you to send your gameplay footage over to computer vision program, and then you can see what is called Pixelbot. Looks like wall hacks, it isn't. It will only show you visible players, but what it does, it has like an AI learning program that allows your aim to get better and better as time goes on through the game, causing you to essentially end up having a slight aimbot, and this can be used on PC as well as on console, and it's used through devices such as like the Titan 2 as well as the Cronus Zen, I believe, is now available to be used on.
Access to the game's memory on console, because consoles are locked down. However, there are 4 ways to cheat on console that I know of. 1, if a console player has someone on their team who is on PC, that PC player could use cheat software to read the game's memory and find information like enemy locations in the match. With this information, the PC cheater can share via web browser, a radar, with their console friend.
What he's just stated there as well, we've spoken about in the past, and we've actually caught people doing this in tournaments, right? Couldn't give you the exact name, but there were streamers who were playing it. One of them was on console, but the other guy who was on his team was live streaming in a Discord server showing wall hacks. So his teammate had actually died to him, or died in the game, so it was then spectating him. So this streamer ended up having visuals of wall hacks based off the live stream that was on Discord. This is a very common way for people to cheat without actually injecting cheats themselves. It's something that people have done in the past where the first guy in their game would die to them and then they spectate, similar to what Grandpa Hacks does, right? But only these guys would then live stream it to a private Discord server, allowing that streamer to see wall hacks on a separate monitor. Okay, so this is something we've touched on in the past.
2. The console cheater can use a hardware device that mimics controller input to help the cheater with things like recoil. 3.
That's like the Zin, the Zen,
gameplay,
the Max.
Use a computer vision object detection model to identify enemies on the screen. After enemies on the screen are identified, the cheater could use either a hardware or mechanical method to move their aim to the detected enemies and handle recoil, which accomplishes aimbot and recoil control.
Again,
Triggerbot
computer
could also
vision.
be accomplished, which is when your gun automatically shoots anytime an enemy is in your crosshair. 4. The cheater can capture network traffic, decrypt it, and figure out what network traffic they can use to identify player locations, which can be drawn on a radar on a separate device. All forms of console cheating are going to become very popular in the near future. Cheaters do not want to be limited only to PC.
Do you feel that Call of Duty could make the anti-cheat better if they wanted to?
Yes, if Activision hired more talent, invested more money into anti-cheat, and gave the Ricochet team more freedom to do what they need to do, the anti-cheat would be infinitely better. Activision and Microsoft undoubtedly have the resources necessary to make cheating a non-issue on Call of Duty.
What do you feel that Call of Duty should be doing to fix the cheating issue?
First, keep known cheaters off the game by using trusted computing. Modern motherboards have a trusted platform module chip. Call of Duty needs to force their player base to enable their TPM so they can use their players' TPM for identification. The TPM cannot be spoofed, so players would be identifiable at all times without the ability to change their IP or spoof hardware identifiers to get out of their hardware ban. Ricochet also needs to permanently hardware ban any known cheaters after the first offense using the TPM.
So think about the information this guy's providing now. He's literally saying, Ricochet, hire me. That's what it sounds like. Imagine, right, if they actually hired somebody like him onto their team to implement these things with the freedom, to actually bring all of these methods into play for Ricochet anti-cheat. How many people would end up getting banned? How many closet cheaters would get exposed? How many people would be able to say, listen, I don't cheat and they were wrong about me? Think about it that way. And yet, for some reason, they don't hire people like this. They treat them as the enemy, which, to be fair, they are the enemy, but they treat them as such. And I think it's damn right disgusting that they aren't willing to work with other people. Even at the very beginning, where they could have incorporated easy anti-cheat into the game, they decided, no, we're going to make our own. And that right there shows how stubborn and arrogant Activision are when it comes to their own games. And I genuinely believe that there is so much more that can be exposed about Ricochet, about the anti-cheat, about Call of Duty. But one thing's for sure, Caps Lock has posted a absolute banger video and we are only 8.5 minutes into it. But if you want to watch the rest, guys, go and check it out. It's linked in the description below. The interview is absolutely fantastic from start to finish. Caps Locked keeps coming out with banger after banger after banger, all linked to the cheating problem that's absolutely affecting the whole player base. And once we get to the bottom of it, then guess what? We are able to go and play the game legitimately and have a fair playing field. That seems to be the mission that Caps Locked is on at the moment, and I feel the same way. I have always wanted a legitimate player base. Now, yes, I've been able to target individuals throughout, and that has been something I've enjoyed doing. But if I can get behind what Caps Locked is actually doing here and help get to the bottom of this with Activision and allow them to start pushing the anti-cheat forward, progressing it and actually, putting a bit of time and effort in, then that's exactly what we're going to do. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. Hit that thumbs up as well if you enjoyed the video. Give the video a share, but also make sure you go and check out the video that's linked in the description and the pinned comment below. If you want to contact me about anything related to cheats or someone who you believe is cheating, hit me up on Twitter at badboybeeman1. And one last thing before we go. If you're anything like me and you're dealing with daily stress and a lot of anxiety, believe me when I say this, Supreme CBD products are unreal. These gummies have helped me massively with the anxiety and stress of my everyday workload, and they could probably help you too if you're dealing with those things. I've got other products here as well, including the oil. These drops work great just before you go into bed. For anybody who has like sleepless nights, these can help massively. And I've got plenty of other products to actually test out from them. I've not tried this yet, but it's the Deep Freeze Balm. I've also got the soft gel capsules, and the reason I chose these is because I've got a sweet tooth, and sometimes you can go through the gummies a little bit too fast. And guys, if you want to go and take a look yourself, make sure you use code BBB40 at checkout to save 40%. The link is in the description below.